evening from the News Radio 1120 and 93.7 FM KPNW studios. I'm Chigger McGee because that's my baseball season name. Actually, I'm Bill London. I do the wake-up call Monday through Friday morning, 6 a.m. to 9 on KPNW. And you may be one of those people where you look at your different insurance policies and you just say to yourself, man, do I have questions. Well, that's why Sean Sutherland set up Ask Insurance. You have questions. He has answers. So contact Ask Insurance. It's run by Sean Sutherland. He's a good guy. He knows his stuff, and he's waiting for you to call and go, so, Sean, I have this math problem. All right, here's some of our crazy Oregon news. Well, federal officials are seeking personal enrollee data from the Medicaid-funded Oregon Health Plan as part of a crackdown on the coverage of people who don't have immigration documentation. The move comes amid a larger Trump administration crackdown on people who came into the country without proper documentation. That crackdown, of course, is fueling protests all over the country. None of the requested information, however, has been turned over. Well, at least yet, and the state of Oregon has until July 30th to somehow comply with the request. Now, the Oregon Health Authority is not responding to any questions over whether it intends to comply. All they'll say is, we will continue to evaluate the request. It's unclear at this point whether the data requested would include that of enrollees of the so-called Healthier Oregon program that was authorized by the Oregon legislature to cover people who don't have immigration documentation. The number that are currently enrolled, about 100,000. The Trump administration has threatened to cut Medicaid funding for states just like Oregon, that cover people regardless of documentation. All right, taking a look at the legislature. A bill in the Oregon House would to undo the property tax protections of ballot measures 5 and 50 is moving through committee and is now gone to the House Senate floor. Or actually the Senate floor. House Bill 2321 creates a study of the only two protections that property owners have to cap their property taxes. The goal is to create either a new tax or different regulations to bypass 5 and 50 or go to the voters with a referendum. The bill states that the goal is, quote, report to the current state property tax system and options to modernize the state property tax system. In other words, they want to come up with ways to increase your property taxes. Ah, yes. That music you're hearing right now, well, that was played in the Oregon House. And it was played during a drag show on Wednesday on the floor of the Oregon House. It was the part of a reading of House Resolution 3. It's a 4-page resolution to honor the history of black drag queens in Oregon history. House Resolution 3 says, in part, be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the State of Oregon that we, the members of the House of Representatives of the 83rd Legislative Assembly, recognize and honor Oregon's rich history of black drag. And we congratulate all of those whose spirited contributions have made Oregon's black drag community one of the most vibrant and vital in the nation. Now, the resolution was sponsored by Representative Travis Nelson.
Gratitude and recognition to the incredible drag performers who joined us this morning. Aquaflora and Isaiah Esquires joining us on the House floor today, in addition to all of the LGBTQ plus folks in the building. Your presence, artistry, and courage are a powerful reminder of the joy, resilience, and cultural impact of drag in Oregon and beyond. Thank you for sharing your light with us this morning. It's an honor to have you here.
It was a 4-page House resolution that spent quite a bit of time naming former black drag queens here in Oregon and a few that well, still are performing in Oregon, like the two that were on the floor of the Oregon legislature performing yesterday. The reading was followed by a floor vote, then the floor show. The resolution passed on mostly party lines. Now, if you would like to see a video of this actually occurring on the House floor, all you have to do is go to our morning show Facebook page, Wake Up Call 1120, and you can see it there in all of its glory. That's Facebook, Wake Up Call 1120. Well, how much will the massive transportation funding package that was put forward only this week by Oregon Democratic lawmakers cost Oregonians to fund an agency that can't do basic accounting? Remember the $1.1 billion that they said, oh, yeah, we kind of lost that. It's also an agency that is beset by constant cost overruns and takes years to finish projects that should take months. That's Oregon's Department of Transportation, ODOT. Well, now we know that package is going to cost Oregonians more than $2 billion per year from new and increased taxes and fees. That, according to the bill that was outlined on Monday. And that is according to the draft legislative report. The new revenue coming from all sorts of new and increased taxes. Like, for instance, they're going to increase Oregon's gas tax. They're going to triple the state's payroll tax, increase vehicle and title registration fees, and charge every electric vehicle user a cost per mile driven. According to the draft report from the Legislative Revenue Office, those tax increases will cost Oregonians $2 billion a year. But there's more. The bill would also implement a brand new 1% transfer tax if and when you buy a used vehicle. And if you decide to go new, well, you're looking at a 2% tax then. Most of the new revenue would go to the State Highway Fund, run by the Oregon Department of Transportation, and it would go for basic operations and road maintenance. Counties would get a portion of the transportation-related services. Cities would get about a fifth of the money. Public transit and railroad services across Oregon will also benefit significantly from the tax increases proposed in the bill. That despite the fact that every major transit service in the state of Oregon has said that they have been dealing with declining ridership year after year for the last 5 years. And with a 3/5 majority in both chambers, Democrats can increase taxes with no Republican support as long as every Democrat votes yes. And you can suspect they will. Governor Tina Kotek signed a slew of new bills this week. Among the highlights, she signed House Bill 1098. It would ban book bans in school districts and libraries based on the author or subject belonging to a protected class like race, color, religion, sex orientation, gender identity, national origin, marital status, age, and disability. Also signed Senate Bill 605. It would prohibit medical service providers from reporting whether a medical patient has a medical debt to a consumer reporting agency, and it also allows patients to sue a person who breaks the law. Well, Democratic lawmakers in Oregon want to limit when the Oregon National Guard can be deployed after President Donald Trump's federalization of the National Guard in California to respond to protests in L.A. 3 representatives, Democrats, have introduced a bill that would strengthen state oversight. The bill would prohibit any deployment that compromises the National Guard's ability to respond to in-state emergencies like wildfires and earthquakes. It would also specify what duties National Guard personnel may or may not be called to perform. Advocates say the bill would protect states' resources, reinforce state sovereignty, and community safety. The lawmakers also considered Trump's use of the National Guard in response to the protests in Los Angeles as federal overreach. Lawmakers passed the bill out of the House Rules Committee on Tuesday, and it is going to the House for a full vote. Well, one Republican has voted in favor of a bill that would make Oregon's $101 billion public pension fund carbon neutral in the next 25 years. House Bill 2081 puts a net zero plan into law. It's passed the Senate, with Republican Dick Anderson voting in favor. The bill is headed to the governor. Barring a veto, future treasurers would be required to remove investments and not invest in carbon-producing industries. Well, following up on a story we told you about before, Alicia Young. She is the former business manager who's suspected of embezzling hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Eugene Weekly. She's been rearrested in Ohio. Now, if you recall, she was originally released from jail in Ohio because Governor Kotek refused to extradite her. Apparently, the crime just wasn't important enough. After Kotek was blasted in the media, blasted by the Eugene Weekly, and blasted by the Lane County DA, Chris Perosa, she changed her mind and said that she'd reconsidered. Well, Young at that point had already been released, so the search started for the woman again. According to the Eugene Police Department, she was located at a residence in Pequot, Ohio, as part of an ongoing fugitive investigation. After deputies with the U.S. Marshals Service established contact by phone, Young was surrendered to the Franklin County Jail. Officials say that surrender, by the way, wasn't voluntary, but rather a result of law enforcement coordination. Apparently, she had to be drugged to jail. Well, new data from the Centers for Disease and Prevention show we're third worst. We're third worst. Oregon is the third worst in the nation for deaths from hepatitis C. Now, there's no vaccine, but it's treatable with proper meds. Hepatitis is an inflammation of the liver, and it's caused by a virus. The most common types are A, B, and C. C is pretty bad. It can lead to cirrhosis, liver cancer, and death. And it's most common in people ages 20 to 29 and those who use illicit drugs, particularly those who share needles or syringes. According to the Oregon Health Authority, the good news is that hepatitis C is treatable. It wasn't always so. But in the last 10 years, a lot of medicines have come onto the market to allow the vast majority of people to get cured within 8 to 12 weeks of starting treatment. That, according to Dr. Paul Cieslak with the Oregon Health Authority. The one thing that they didn't answer, and a question that they don't reply to, is, well, why is Oregon number 3 in this? What's the reason? Is it because of our poor health system? Is it because we have such high drug abuse rates in the state of Oregon? Why are we number 3? Well, Intel plans to lay off up to a fifth of its factory workers, and that is an enormous cutback that could have a profound effect on the chipmaker's core business. Intel Manufacturing Vice President Naga Chagaskaran wrote to employees that the company is targeting job reductions up to 20%. Most of those cuts are going to take place in July. And Intel announced the pending layoffs back in April and notified factory workers that the cuts would begin next month. Overall, though, the layoffs will surely eliminate several thousand jobs, quite possibly more than 10,000. And the layoffs will take place at Intel's factories around the world, and that's a big deal here in Oregon, which is the heart of the company's manufacturing operation. The chipmaker actually employs more than 20,000 people here in the state of Oregon, which is more than any other business. It's the state's largest employer, and that's kind of frightening. All right, your news has been brought to you by Sean Sutherland. When you have questions about your insurance, ask insurance. Call Sean. All right, Rick, it's time for you to roll out a big old industrial-sized can of oozing real.